media rights and also copyrights in Europe, in every country. There are different comprehensions on this. The question is, do you know, or could you comment the differences between the Anglo-American regulations and comprehensions on copyright and the European understanding of copyright? Is there a difference, or is there no difference, and should there be international regulations, one rule for all countries on copyright? And how to deal with infringement, for example. Should it be punished, a zero-tolerance politic, or?
Yep. Okay. Well, it's a good question. I think one rule for all countries on anything is pretty tough. So I'm not sure we're going to get there on copyright. I don't think there's a difference from a user perspective, and I don't think there's a difference from a creator perspective. Creators are creators regardless of what country they live in, and if they want to be compensated for their work, if it's used commercially, they should be. If they want to allow royalty-free uses of their work in a commercial or non-commercial setting, they should be allowed to do that. Users of copyrighted content also have the same needs regardless of where they're located. So we really live in a global economy, and I don't mean to, really sound so elemental in that, but it's true. I mean, in the situation, let's take an academic institution. You have students all over the world that are participating in that curricula, whatever it is. MIT, for example. MIT has published curriculum that for free, that you don't have to be an enrolled student of MIT. There are many universities now, or academic organizations in Vietnam that are using that content that MIT is publishing. That's all boats rise with the tide. That is excellent, and that's what should be happening. There's a rights owner there that had a choice, MIT. They put it out. There are users in Vietnam that have a need. They're reaching out. I think when I think about what can be done in terms of, on a global basis in terms of copyright, I think the most important thing from my perspective is more tools and services can be created to give users more choices and to give rights owners more choices. I think transparency, understanding what the choices are, where you can go to get more information, that is a global need. And I think that what would be beneficial is for government leaders and thought leaders from different markets and the World Intellectual Property Organization, many of these types of thought leader groups, to work together to come up with more solutions for the market, because the needs are very strong. And they are borderless. You know, they're not, those needs are not confined within one particular country.
Is it a realistic approach to these needs, that they will evolve in the near future, or is it realistic to think that these requirements will come to reality in the near future? You've described.
What do you mean, these requirements? That's
developments you would
developments
predict,
of new licensing tools and choices? I think yes. I mean, I think 10 years ago we didn't have Creative Commons, and now we have it.
Okay.
So I think that, we didn't have iTunes, and then we did. I think we are going to see so many new opportunities for licensing. Some will come with content, some won't. Before there was Flickr, where did we put our photos? And I think that we're seeing new sites all the time, new choices, new mechanisms, and I think we'll continue to see that.
Are there or will there be other ways to protect intellectual properties besides copyrights, or do you know other ways to protect intellectual property?
Besides copyright itself? Besides copyright. Well, I'm a big believer in copyright. I think it's at its root foundation, it's really critical for the planet. I guess I'll go huge. At its very foundation, I think copyright helps to protect creativity, and I have to believe in what I'm doing, and I really deeply believe that. So in terms of protecting copyright, I think the best thing to do, again, is build solutions that work for the market. I think if we take a lockdown approach, let's take piracy, okay? Let's take piracy, for example. That's a pretty rampant problem, and I think has been discussed throughout the Storydrive events here. Do we need to find pirated material and do something about that? Yes, we do. But we can't run around with a big stick and just keep whacking. That's not going to work. We also have to have a carrot. We also have to have an incentive. We also have to have an easy way for the users to get access to this information. So if we say this can't be posted on YouTube, that's just not a good ending. We need to find a way for it to be posted. Maybe it's not going to be posted on YouTube. It needs to be posted somewhere because people need to get access to that content. And that's a good example of the Google Book settlement. There's a pretty hot topic in copyright. So the Google Book settlement, is scanning those books fundamentally wrong? I think creating access to that information is terrific. The question is, how do you do that in a collaborative way with the rights owners? That's a critical piece.
Any questions from the audience? Are there any questions? No, there aren't. Okay, one last question from me. Flatter and Cartringle are representatives of the social payment or crowdfunding. And maybe this is a little bit an alternative to copyrights I mentioned before. Because the question is, do you think that's right or is it not? These are payment models that on a voluntarily basis secures some amount of money for the author. But it's voluntarily and it's not so secure as it sounds.
I don't think it's an alternative. I think it's just a different model. That's what I think. So that's a great example when you said, do you think new models are going to come up in the future? These models that Daniel is referring to, I think one of them is still in beta. These are kind of crowdsourcing, and you decide to put a little bit of money into a pot. You pay up front, say you paid 20 euro, and as you access these sites, a little bit of that 20 euro is allocated to these different sites. I think that's terrific if that's what the owners of that information want and that's what those users want. I see nothing wrong with that. I think it's licensing. Some people would say Creative Commons isn't licensing. You're kind of opting out of copyright. I think what you're doing there is absolutely licensing, and I think you'd be doing the same thing here. It's just a different way of paying royalties, and it might be a different amount of royalties. That's it. Right? That's it. So, but that's not opting out of copyright or differing from copyright. It's just building on it and building new creative ways. And so that's what I'm saying. We're not at the end of that yet, because I think those are really great examples of somebody thinking really dynamically. In the case of one of them, I think the idea came up in 2004, but it was too soon to really, the market wasn't really ready, you know? So we'll see. There's probably ideas today that we'll see in 5 years because the inventor thought we weren't ready today.
Let's do it. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, Tracy, for the wonderful interview, and have a nice evening. Bye.
Thank you very much.